The episode Smoke Rings from Tales from the Crypt remains one of the series' most underrated explorations of manipulation, obsession, and corporate control. What makes this story so compelling is not its simple horror twist, but the psychological smoke that clouds every scene, the way the narrative twists the idea of addiction from physical substance to psychological dependency. The central character, an ambitious advertising executive, believes he can sell anything. His life revolves around persuasion, from cigarette campaigns to the emotional triggers that make people desire what harms them. The first scene sets the tone perfectly. A sleek office bathed in filtered light, the protagonist rehearsing a pitch about freedom and rebellion while standing in front of a "no smoking" sign. The irony is intentional and heavy-handed, but that's the point. The show exaggerates everything to reveal the absurdity of the advertising world and the moral decay behind its glamorous facade. Every conversation in that office is a transaction, every smile a negotiation. When he meets his new boss, a calm and composed figure whose voice sounds like velvet wrapped around poison, the dynamic shifts immediately. This boss doesn't just want sales, he wants control. His methods are subtle, almost hypnotic. As he explains the new campaign, the camera focuses on the smoke curling from his cigarette, filling the air like a spell. It's not just smoke, it's a metaphor for influence, for the way ideas spread invisibly, seeping into the lungs and minds of everyone nearby. The protagonist, at first skeptical, becomes fascinated. He sees in this mentor a reflection of what he wants to be: charming, untouchable, powerful. The second act builds on this tension. We watch the protagonist slowly lose his sense of boundaries. He starts experimenting with psychological tricks in his advertising pitches, realizing that the human mind can be more easily manipulated than any product design. The writers of the show clearly intended to critique the ethics of media, but they do it through horror and satire rather than moral lectures. The office becomes a laboratory of desires. Co-workers are test subjects. In one particularly striking scene, he convinces a colleague to light a cigarette despite years of quitting, just by whispering certain words. The thrill on his face as she obeys him is both frightening and pathetic. He's not addicted to smoking, but to control. What makes this episode different from other morality tales in the series is that it doesn't rely on supernatural monsters to punish the guilty. The monster is the mind itself. The boss teaches the protagonist about a secret technique, words and sounds that trigger obedience. It feels like a parody of advertising slogans but carries a darker tone. When he realizes he can use it outside of work, the moral collapse becomes complete. He uses the technique to seduce, to manipulate, to silence. He stops caring about the product or the company. The campaign becomes life itself, and everyone around him is a customer to exploit. Visually, the episode reflects his descent. The cinematography starts bright, filled with sharp edges and reflections, but gradually the colors fade. Smoke becomes thicker, lights dimmer. Even the office plants wilt slightly by the end. It's as if the entire space is suffocating under the weight of lies. When the protagonist begins to experience hallucinations, seeing faces in the smoke, hearing voices in static, the viewer feels both his paranoia and his denial. He insists he's in control, even as everything slips away. The final twist, as with all Tales from the Crypt stories, is poetic justice. He tries to use his newfound hypnotic power against his mentor, only to discover that he himself has been under the spell all along. The scene where he realizes this, as the smoke closes in and his reflection distorts in the office window, remains haunting. He wasn't learning power, he was the product being sold. The show ends with him trapped, mentally enslaved, whispering slogans to himself in a haze of cigarette smoke. What makes Smoke Rings timeless is how relevant it remains in an era of digital persuasion. Replace cigarettes with social media or targeted ads, and the story becomes eerily prophetic. The moral is not simply "don't smoke," but beware of those who sell you desires. The narrative rhythm mimics addiction itself, slow, repetitive, then accelerating toward collapse. As a viewer, you almost smell the smoke, feel the dizziness of control slipping away. On a personal note, watching this episode today evokes the strange nostalgia of 1990s moral television wrapped in camp horror. Yet, beneath the surface, humor lies genuine insight. The acting captures a theatrical exaggeration that fits perfectly with the theme of performance, everyone pretending to be confident while hiding fear. The dialogue, full of doublespeak and charm, mirrors the language of advertisements we still hear daily. In the end, Smoke Rings is less about tobacco than about the human soul's vulnerability to persuasion, a cautionary tale not against vices, but against those who manufacture them.